December 22nd, Fort Thomas Design Review Board meeting, and we'll begin with a quick roll call, if that's okay.
Jeffrey Sackerman.
Here.
Mark Thurnauer. Pat Hagerty.
Here.
Lori Wendley. Here. Barry Petrarca.
Here.
Barb Thomas. Here.
Okay, thank you. First item on the agenda is a review of the meeting minutes from November 17th, 2022. I was not present at that meeting, so if anybody has any comments or edits, let us know. Otherwise, we'll take a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the minutes from the last one.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
All right, there's a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, under continued business, we have the application for 25 North Fort Thomas Avenue for the addition and improvements to the existing building. Somebody here want to step up and give us a little background? Or?
Jeffrey, if I may, just a little introduction, real quick, if you don't mind. Just want to reiterate the format. We've kind of, there was a couple meetings that we've gotten a little off course, and just want to state the format. Essentially, it's going to be the applicant presenting. There'll be interaction between the applicant and the board. When the board has completed their questions, they'll open it up to public comment. Public comment ceases, the board has some additional discussion, and then vote. So there will be a time for public comment. Just be patient if you do have any comments from the public. Lastly, I just wanted to kind of, as far as the format, and this is kind of a little bit educational for us on the board a little bit as well, is last month we had a vote. It was obviously a kind of a split decision at the time, and typically, under most of our meetings, that would be it. The meeting, this topic would be over. However, the Design Review Board has a clause in there in the ordinance that talks about a discussion period, because I think the idea is that we try to arrive at some sort of agreements with these decisions of the Design Review Board specifically. So I just wanted to clarify with you all that that's what's happening here. We had a vote that was a split decision. That a tie decision is generally a strike down, and that's how it would normally in our other meetings just go by the wayside. That's the decision. But this does have a discussion period. That's why we're having this meeting again. So just wanted to make that comment really quick, and that's why we're here, and that's all I had to say. So.
Thank you. So yeah, is there somebody here that would like to come up and give us some background? And if you could give us your name, if you could give us your name and address when you come up here, so we can record it.
I am Jeff Dupold. I live at 35 Crow Hill in Fort Thomas. Lifetime Fort Thomas resident. So this is meeting number 3 for me, and the last time it was Ron, the architect from the drawing department, whom's got a couple of employees, partners here also. Ron is out of town, so you'll surely get to speak to everybody. I will speak probably 100% different than Ron spoke, because I am doing this solely out of my heart and soul to try to get a building, a restaurant in the middle of town to complete the project that was put together by Rick Gryway and the city, trying to get the Central Business District up to snuff. I drive past that bank building. Well, I drove past it 4 times today. It's the most sad-looking situation sitting there as it is right now, and you've got to agree with that. But it's prime day to drive past and not see anything that's good right there. So I have notes, and I'm not a reader. I probably talk a little bit more, better. I talk a little better off the cuff, I think. So I'll look down here. But first of all, this was put together back in the summer of 21 when I had met Rick prior to that, but talking with Rick and knowing that the building, that he was having a very hard time trying to get the building filled with someone or someone to come with them or instead of them and to redevelop the site that the bank building is sitting on right now. And Rick, I know he's probably not allowed to just speak up, but if I'm steering down the wrong road, I'll call for something, I'll turn around. But that was sort of the phase 2, and again, I don't know what's official, but the second building is going to be a 2-story building, sit-down restaurant on the first floor, office space, professional space up above it. So they had, a very difficult time, no success. The only people that were wanting to join with them were banks. And the higher-ups in the city, and they may be sitting here, I don't know who, but I heard from probably the highest up, is that they don't want another bank in the center of town. Fine. So I started thinking, what can I do? I want a restaurant. I want the success. I love this city. I've done everything I can between the high school, the city itself, everything. I obviously love this city. I got together with some people and I said, hey, what do you think about turning this into a restaurant? He said, great idea. Who's going to do it? I said, I don't know. I'm not going to run a restaurant. Hell, I ran a construction company. I don't know. Restaurant would never do that. So they said, well, get a group together, see what you've got, or talk to other people, see what you got, and come back to it. So meanwhile, what I ended up doing was I talked to the gentleman, Tony Cafeo. Tony is a restaurateur from Greater Society from the west side of Cincinnati. He's got a couple things here, pressed down in Newport, something over in Covington. He's got Jefferson Social, The Incline, Som, not Buena Vista, Billy Yanks, sorry, right there. Billy Yanks up in Hamilton. So he's been very successful. I said, that's what the city needs. I said, here I'm just pointing to Barb because she worked her tail off to get the success that she's got up there. It's great, but, she did that all her own. Again, I'm not going to do this. Found a restaurateur. He wants to invest in the building. He wants it to happen too. He's this kind of guy. He thinks Fort Thomas is great. I've just seen the success of everything going on at the south end of town. The center is sitting dull right now. Rick's building's finished. It's ready to go. Can't wait till spring. So I signed Tony up. I said, you're part of this group. I got 10 people together to invest in the building. Invest in the building, we've got it. We did some work with the city, swapping some land, some loan thing, all that stuff that you've heard that no one knows correctly except for myself and some other people. But all that, we've got it down, we're ready to go. We came up with what we believe is the best architect that we could find in the drawing department to help us turn this into a restaurant. That's what they do mostly, or a whole lot. And so we teamed up with them. First thing they did was came together with a rendering. And it's a rendering that we've seen for the last year and a half of the building with gathering spot out in front, lots of sitting, gathering spot, gathering spot, gathering spot. I've said that word 1,000 times in these meetings when I'm with the different people that are associated with this. Center of town, gathering spot, sit there, have a cocktail, go up to the football game, sit in town, walk, just this whole city is full of this, walk up and down, you can see it everywhere. It's fantastic. So the front of this building is the most important part of this building to me, okay? For the success of this building, I think this picture shows a million words, okay? I feel that it makes it warm. It doesn't have it be whatever it was. BB&T was the last bank, a couple other banks, Bank of Kentucky, et cetera, was there. It's not a bank anymore. I know, and I'm not pointing, but I am, because we're friends here. Barry said, I love the craftsmanship. I love it too. It's a bank building. It's great. It's a restaurant. It's not going to get, it's just not. Overall success of this project is going to be it welcoming and doing what we want it to be. So we have worked diligently to try to come up with different ideas, different things. We've got the addition on the side, but it's going to be contrasting, I'm gonna call it 100%, because you can't blend it. We've got the brick on the right side where the old teller was, that's gonna be patched in, it's not gonna be matched right, you know, it's just not. We think painting this building and making it comfortable for people to walk up is the way to go. You know, again, I'm doing this 110% from my heart. The investment in the building is from my heart. The return is not a big deal. You know, people are saying all this crap. It's not. We are working hard to try to do something for the city. That is it. The city, we have worked very hard with them. They are supportive of almost everything that we can do, that we're doing. I've worked with Rick Riley, the project next door. I think it would be the icing on the cake for that project to have it finished and crowd and have everything. So that is 90% of what I have written down. I just wish you would listen to it in that way, and I know that people have lived here and like the building or don't like the building. You know, after this time, I get a call about a week later saying that there's a Facebook code out there. I thought, I mean, this is unbelievable, you know. And but I will say that Facebook on 70 to 30 or 66 to 30 or whatever. But that aside, I mean, I think it's simple. I think we should just be able to work together to try to make this thing happen. That's what I'm here for. That's all I have to say. But if anyone has a question for me, I'd love to hear it. Anything.
So the white, are you planning on painting or would like to paint it white? Has the color been determined on this last? There was a color presented.
At this moment,
At this point, you're just wanting to
At
be
this
able to
moment-
get the approval to have it painted.
this is Lily, and I think you all remember her, so she will speak with me on some of these answers, if it's okay.
So I work in the drawing department, and I think the general idea is that we could talk about it and pick maybe a color later on if the white is offensive, but we picked a general palette that we thought was historically sensitive and just kind of established the lightness and the freshness and the update that we wanted from the building. So I have some example colors, so we were kind of going with everything is a little muted and softer, so it's not a high contrast white, a high contrast black, a brilliant blue for the door. It's just kind of a lot of soft versions of these colors, but they are open for discussion. I think our main goal would just be that it's painted and it's a nice update more so than it has to be this exact shade, if that is an issue.
In that department, versus the general question that I had, I didn't know what ideas.
The rough palette is here, you just saw it, it's been presented both times.
Okay.
So it's, so,
And I have a question for the board. So Mark's not here tonight. So the votes tonight with his vote from last week, it would be,
if you're asking me, but I know the rulings are here.
so, I wasn't here last month, but, I did hear about the meeting and I read minutes and everything. And I went back and did some research and looked at our ordinances that are outdated. And I'm all about growing Fort Thomas. I've been here for 10 years. That's what I'm set to do with my businesses, and I love to see other businesses come in and make our community a better place to live. I also have an opinion, if it's a historic building or a non-historic building, about the elements on the outside. And I feel, my personal opinion is, I like the whole painted brick look. I think that it goes along with what you're saying. It's a fresh business model for Fort Thomas. And I would also make a point that it's not a historic building. And I feel like you have a business coming into Port Thomas and wanting to make a go of it. They have a business plan, and the outside part cosmetic of the building goes along with that plan, that culture of the business. I feel like it's our responsibility to try and help them see and obtain that overall picture. So my vote would be to paint the building, because I think it's a great model. I think it's a fresh new look for the middle of the town. And again, the reason I made this decision, for the most part, is because it's not a historic building. And so my opinion with painting the brick for a non-historic building is different, and I'm looking at it from a different perspective. So that's I would say my vote would be to paint the building.
Thank you. Thank you for your lead in, and you did hire the best firm in town to do this, probably the best firm in the Midwest to do this. Very familiar with their work, and the drawing department does excellent work, so great choice there. I have a different opinion though. I really don't like the idea of painting brick for a number of reasons. In this instance, I think it'd be worthwhile maybe to talk a little bit more through it, because maybe you might be able to change my mind, but, and I'm with one vote, so that's why we have these
That's why we
discussions.
have these discussions.
You know, I really like the plan that you guys have come up with. I like activating the street in the front yard. I think the building at that point almost becomes background with as much stuff is planned, and it kind of shows up in the renderings here to happen in that front lawn, that front patio. I think the brick is really a quite charming aspect of that building. I also have the opinion that right now we're in the midst of a trend of painting buildings. And I'll give Chip and Joanna Gaines a lot of credit for that, because I think you can walk around town right now and see probably dozens of houses that have been painted either white or battleship gray, or across from my house, that god-awful slate blue color. And buildings that were beautiful with the original brick on them. Go just 3 houses up, and there was one that had a beautiful yellow brick like this that is now gray, that completely clashes with the green clay tile that is original to that building. So I think that if, you know, my opinion would be, if this were an ugly building with ugly brick patterning, not something that, frankly, you'd pay a small fortune to lay that brick that way in today's world. It is labor intensive. You take a guess, you take somebody who's doing this, you know, one for one, as quickly as you possibly can to set a wall, then you have to think about that pattern. And so concealing that just by painting it white, I also don't think just painting buildings white makes them inviting. I think white can come across as feeling a little too stark and cold, and so.
Well, it's got a heck of a slate roof on it, and that gives you great feel there. It's going to have wood structure up front, so.
Yeah, I don't have any concerns about that stuff. I do have concerns about painting it white, and then all the other trim, which right now is offset by the fact that there's a colored brick on it, also, at least as presented in the rendering, remains white, like it just gets washed out.
Well, white might not be, that stark white might not be, like if you get the approval, then maybe we come up with a different color scheme to make it not be as stark.
Is the Sheriff considered in the process part of the applicant? Or
Yes.
the-
Yeah, can you just give us your name? Just
Yeah, I'm Yvonne Morales. I'm one of the owners of the drawing department. On Novak is my partner, and unfortunately couldn't be here tonight. I think he can speak to this well, and I think you've all heard him. I hear what you're saying. I think a little bit of the counterpoint, like you said, you know, you want this building to be background because of all the inviting things we're doing in the foreground, and that is part of it, is that this is a very busy pattern. The Flemish fawn, which sometimes the Flemish fawn was installed with the accenting darker brick, and sometimes it wasn't. And you know, in terms of white, Traditionally, it was lime wash, but brick being white was not uncommon, even with the Flemish bond. Because the bond is still visible, I mean, that pattern, that you're right, somebody paid extra for.
You lose it though if you're painting all the mortar joints. I mean, it definitely becomes
It is-
washed out at that point.
It is diminished, I would agree, but I would not agree that you lose it. I think it's still there somewhat. So I don't think white is stark and uninviting. I think it was the most common thing to do to brick in a lime wash historically. And it really does help these foreground elements pop. I mean, I think this building isn't historic. It's from the 80s, and I mean, I think it's a matter of 60s.
I mean, nothing's historic.
No, until
you
it gets
say
open.
that.
Correct, but it was imitating a style that predated it, and I would say not with a high level of success, that the scale of that pattern would be more appropriate on a larger building, a low building, and that it's not quite the asset to that building that that pattern might be on a different building. So again, to the warmth and inviting and just freshening it and cleaning it up, still retaining texture and pattern, and then also being able to address areas where we have to patch brick, where we're not going to be able to match, to just make the whole thing more uniform, including the addition. So that's a little bit of our architecture take on the brick.
Will you be removing the brick wall to the existing building in the addition areas? Nancy?
Sorry, I agree here.
Yeah, the brick wall.
How much of the brick wall?
Just a little where the doorway is.
Between the addition, is that what
Between
you're
the
saying?
addition and the existing wall?
Yeah, we're really trying to minimize it for structural reasons, but,
But if you just, well, my only point is you could probably save some brick because
I don't
the
think-
opening that you have for that window is on that side facing that concrete wall. Going back into the
Financially, that's going to be very.
Not if you're not painting the building. What is the value of painting the building? It's gotta be 20 or 30 grand. Really?
That thing's only 8 foot high around.
My feeling, I have really looked hard at this because I love your color palette. I love white painted buildings. That's my personal opinion. And I feel like my job here is to take the document that we produced. And it does, suggest that we do not paint buildings that have not been painted. And there are some buildings that do deserve to be painted, no doubt about it. This one I feel is unique to the city. It's done well. We spent a lot of time on one island making sure that we had as much brick and stone as possible to not have it become a big driveway or whatever material we used to place. So I felt like that was really a big push for the community, board, and everything to not have some big box, the corner as things are brought in. I walked down again, and from Henry Insurance up to Christ Church, there are 14 buildings, I think, of which only 4 are brick, and I'm including one island in there. All of the others are white, with one being light gray, which is the one adjacent to it. So I have tried really hard to
Have you thought about have you thought about what we're putting in there? What,
I have, and to
because
be honest-
Tony is like, he's dead set against, he said, it's got to be. And I'm like, well, Tony, I need.
I mean, I've just seen other places where he is, and it's, I think if his food is good, anyone will succeed if the product's good, the price is right for that market, blah, blah, blah. But that's not what we're here to discuss. But I understand
Well, I mean, that's, I mean, those are the things, the signage, of course, that's something that we would, I look up at the signage up and down the city, and it looks god awful in many places. And, you know, and then, that's the last thing I want is something gigantic across the front of the restaurant. It's gonna be a white sign, whatever, it's acceptable. I mean, it fits into, you know, who the architecture firm is, it's not gonna be
That
a
will be
little
part of
beer
this
sign.
process.
Oh, yeah.
Get to it back then, and that,
Yeah.
you know, to have the whole picture.
But I see like the signage of one island, I think that type of look is a big look. You know, it's a good look. I'm not saying identical to that, but it's complementary to that. Like I said, you don't want a big old, you know, neon, not neon, across the street, drug center's got a big old sign, you know, it's not, you know, it's great everywhere. Yeah.
We wouldn't allow that anymore.
Oh, I know that. Oh, I know that. And right, I know that. But it's, you know, and that's not what, you know, I'm 100% with that. I just, you know, after everything that we've gone through to get this, put the group together, got everything going forward, I'm at a standstill, can't do a thing. I want to proceed with the restaurant. You know, there's many other options we can all do, but a restaurant being white is the dream of the ownership of that we put together here. And it will be a good look. It, you know, I know certain people like certain things, but it's like, hey, think about the people that bought it, the end user, what he wants. You know, I heard from, you know, Laura, it's the way you want something new. You don't want to say, yeah, let's go to the bank. I mean, that's all the stuff that I've said the last couple of meetings. It's going to be known as the bank, the bank, the bank. And I'm like saying, no, you know, I don't want it to be the bank. The bank is history. The building is a restaurant, and it's going to be here for a long time. And for the success of this, I think we've got to think about it and put our brains into it, meaning not the heart as much, to make this thing, do everything it can to succeed. You know, like I said, the city wants success. We all want success. Let's do what we can to do what the architectural firm has come up with, who's, yes, as you said earlier, Jeff, they're very successful. They know what they're doing too. Not to do anything very important, but it's like, come on, let's go. So that's me. I can ramble on. I'm sorry.
Let me ask a hypothetical.
My heart is here.
Lori kind of mentioned it in her kind of counting, like, what if every building on the avenue was white?
You didn't make a fun color choice.
No, I know, but I mean,
What if every building on the street was a veterinary? I mean, you know, I know what you're saying. You don't want it all to be white. It should all be red brick too.
but it's going that way though.
But let's make something that's going to look good and be warm and not be a bank. If we want a bank there, we can talk to U.S. bankers.
You know, I think with what you have planned in the front, nobody's going to mistake it for a bank anymore. They might still, with nostalgia, refer to it as a bank.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was a bank, but with what's planned to happen in the front, and with the activity that I imagine will happen there, I don't think anybody's going to mistake it for a bank anymore.
Was that your fear that people will look at that brick building and say, I'm not going in there?
Partly. First of all, the group of investors I put together wanted to compete in Brooklyn, so I'm doing everything I can to make their dream come true, what they've done and invested. That's number one. Number two, yes, I like the brick. I think it looks like a bank. I mean, the style, you're not going to see it on a house in Fort Thomas. You're not going to see it on a new restaurant up the street or down the street. You're not going to see it done right. White is going to make it more charming and make everybody feel good about it. It's going to give it the new look that we want, It's going to change it. And, you know, I think we got a change in times in Fort Thomas. I mean, I do. Thank goodness my kids are staying around. One of the best things was that coffee shop. And I'm not trying to get off, but it's that kind of stuff that's happening. And you've got to do this stuff. It's got to be some change to be able to keep this people, you know. And you know, Mark said it well, you know, it's like you gotta look out for the ownership, the group, and, you know, give them everything they can to get the success that they want out of this. So to answer, yeah, I mean, every time I walk up, of course, I've got 3 meetings of saying, you know, the others. So I just don't see anybody going down the street saying, why they can't do it, you know? I just don't see it. I just don't. It's, you know, that's why we buy things, try to do it for ourselves, but within a reason. I think this is well within reason. If I was painted pink or something, and I said this last week, that's duh. Yeah, I know that. This is not doing anything that's off the wall. It's not the blue or whatever that color is across from your house. You said, I don't know where you live, but I know the house. So,
It's been painted 3 times since they painted because it keeps failing. So.
oh, that color fails?
Yeah.
Wow. So that's mine. Anything else for the team that I'm with here?
The one thing I'd like to add, though, is that we've seen so many restaurants go into that general location. And they've all had problems because things weren't accommodated. You know, buildings weren't accommodating, arrangements and so on. Yeah, they probably have good food, some of them I like tremendously, but they failed.
Management's a business.
Well, some of it. But some of it is, we've got to make that atmosphere where people want to go there. Like you're saying, Fort Thomas Coffee, they don't come. Great atmosphere. So, to me, if what your professionals are telling you is that for them to be able to create that best atmosphere, they really need to make brick. And I have no problem with it. I think brick lawn is nice, it's interesting, but it's not that deep of a building. So, I would rather have the restaurant than the brick. So, I will do anything to help that enterprise be successful. We need it here. We haven't had really that level of restaurant since we lost what used to be the Wayside, and then came Dominic's, or
Vito's.
Vito's, yeah.
Vito's.
And that was about it. You know, once that was gone, now, you know, where do we go? We got to go outside of Fort Thomas to get that type of level of food. So,
And I think, you know, this end of town, I call it the south end, I don't know if that sounds good or bad, but it's true, it's the south end. It is booming right now. You can park, you know, it's great. This is all good stuff.
Part of what happened, I think, there is that it struggled for years and years, but then it finally got to what I would call a critical mass. You had enough good establishments in that area that it started to really draw. Okay? And that's exactly what we need to have happen up at Town Center. You know, we've got Highlands building now, that's starting to draw people in there. For a great restaurant, that'll happen. We'll probably see in the future where some of those homes, the old existing homes, right in that area, will be slated to go down. Or the banks. I mean, banks don't need their buildings like they used to. You could see 1 or 2 of those banks just come up again for sale to turn into something else, or demolish and put in something different. But to create that critical mass so that people really want to go there and be there, you know, we've got to make the steps forward. In my mind, it'll take painting brick. That's paint brick. I don't have a problem with it.
Is work coming tonight?
What can the public speak as of?
This
Are we
is
getting
the
this jumping
discussion
ahead of
between
the
board and presenters. Is there any other
Anything for
discussions
me?
from the board?
I can come back up after.
I would just hope that there would be a compromise tonight based on what everyone has presented a compromise to bring in a business with a full vision inside and out with painted brick, and a compromise to still keep the integrity of our streetscapes. Not the original brick, but still a very nice brick.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we will open it up to the public. Thank you.
Yeah, feel free to call me back up.
I guess I'm again supposed to be at 7 o'clock, so I'm gonna try to get back across the river before I get stuck here for 3 days.
Name and address for the record.
Rick Riley, I live across the river, and I believe in Fort Thomas, as you know, and we were part of the process to make sure that One Highland was designed in the character that would have some lasting value. And I'm probably the biggest investor in Fort Thomas, next to the city who just finished their building. And I believe in this project the way they're proposing it. Drawing department is well known, not just here, but throughout the country for creating destinations. I think they've come up with the concept of the contrasting color palette of the light or whatever, off-white and the dark addition, plus the wood out front, and the landscaping is going to be a fun, attractive destination. And that's what we're trying to do here. It will help not just my sales, but it will create the critical mass that we hope to start in the central business district. If you close your eyes for a minute and do a tour real quick of your CBD, starting with the new renovation of City Hall, kind of contemporary glass, concrete panels. You got a brick bank at third. You got some houses, a hodgepodge of houses, and you have another house that was painted, shown, my building. You got another real estate company in the corner with a dance studio that's painted. The only thing that really is brick is the post office, U.S. Bank, West Banco, your clock tower, the third. They're all banks. They're all institutional buildings. So this is another part of your, I would say, a galactic downtown that has siding and marble facades and concrete panels and all kinds of stuff. This is not Marymount, folks. This is not Montgomery. This is an eclectic collection of evolution of downtown buildings that somehow will be attractive enough to get people coming. So I'm in favor of the need alternative. I think you've got a good group of people that want to make it successful. And I think it's a fun way to make a statement that this is a place to be entertained, not to deposit money. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if this is going to be a brick building, there's no way you can work with that brick?
We work with the existing brick
Yes.
to patch the ATM or to,
I'm just talking about the front of the building. If it's not a white building, can you work with that building and make it a desirable location for your
it
restaurant?
is decidedly less desirable. I mean, I think again, we would like it to be background to the new foreground elements that are going to engage with the streetscape and really just be populated with outdoor dining, and that's where the emphasis should be. And this very busy pattern in the background just it detracts from that.
We have other architectural elements that exist that we think are more appealing, like the lovely slate roof. I mean, that's something you don't see very much anymore. Because again, like the labor and costs that went into that, similar to the arguments we've heard about the brick, like it's created a beautiful structure, and we don't feel a need to touch that, and we think that that would stand and stay and present the same beauty that it has. And then it has the copper trim that's aged and patina. We're not touching that as well. And so those kind of become like a nice jewel crown on top of just kind of a muted, shorter, square building that besides the brick pattern, there's not a lot going on that we feel would add to our program or would be an asset, really.
I'm just with Jeff. There's so many painted buildings up there now. I would hate to add another one to it. And I just think it's going to be a nice restaurant. You're going to do a great job on it. I don't think people are going to go, I'm not going to, it's painted or brick, I'm not going in there. I don't think it's an issue. But we'll see. Now, if it remains brick around the windows, will that be white trim? What's that going to be?
We were replacing, I think the consensus that we reached was replacing the windows that exist with a more simplified mullion and mutton pattern. But I think you're making that dark, so it was kind of.
2 over 2 or something?
Sorry, you got the nose split.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll have to see the image, but I think I'm not sure of the exact number, but I think the idea was that we were making them dark instead of white, so that would kind of go along with just creating an opening, so at night they're kind of like illuminated little lantern holes instead of kind of a stamped out window, so I think that was the choice there with the windows.
So if it remains brick, will the windows then be white, or will they still be dark?
I think we would still make them dark. I think that was a choice that we felt would just be best. That's a small nod to the original stage window, but kind of updating the look. And again, tying into the darker addition, so it's taking a color and pushing it around the existing part of the building to tie it to a little bit more.
It's a tough call.
It's just, I forget, what you said, no.
We can just hear you a little bit better.
Okay.
Off the podium.
Yeah.
So that's the main reason.
Jeff, Liverpool 35.
Right.
Guys, you've heard it all from me. I mean, our group really wants this white. And our big thing is, and Clark hit it on the nail with the fact that we want it to be the new look, the new building, welcoming, successful, all of that stuff. Would it be that staying brick like it is now? Possibly. I'm not saying it won't, or it will or it won't. I'm not saying it. Our desire with our team here was to paint it, give it the fresh look, and go with it. That is, I mean, that is really what we want. I've reached out, like I said, I feel like I've gotten a successful restaurateur, so, you know, we want it to not be like what has happened in the past up there. We drink guns. I mean, I've got a lot of investment in this to make it succeed, much less just right here, you know, and we just want it to happen. And
Are his other restaurants painted or brick?
I'm not, I brought that, I'm not, you know, but, the successful ones are painted.
It's not the universal
Interiors that function. To your point, it's the interiors that have to function.
Oh, it's all got to function.
Service, yeah.
It's got to start from the front door and go. I mean, it does. And our big thing up there is the front. Our big thing up there is I want it to be a gathering spot. I almost don't care if we doesn't make a sandwich in there. I think the front gathering spot it will be so welcoming to just sit around. It's great. It's up in midtown up there. The school, the intersection, the coffee shop, all that stuff's right there. The fantastic convenience store across the street. So, you know, I want it to happen.
I just did want to clarify because of what your humor is, but painted brick is not our go-to default. It's not like we always say painted brick is better and other brick isn't. I think it's just curious on this building, the scale of the building. It's a rather small scale for such a busy pattern. And it's an architectural response to this specific building, not like an across the board. Because, you know, I could be here talking about a different building and making a strong argument for not painting the brick, and I would if I felt that was what was appropriate. And I really think that it was a curious choice on this building, on this scale of building. And I think what Lily mentioned, I think that roof and those details are going to shine a lot brighter when we just kind of tone down this element of the brick that really just catches the eye to a degree that's just more than we would like.
Is
looking
there-
at your planter boxes or else the ledge that you have across the front where the tables are. And the tables are 30 inches high typically. The chair and the building brick is 8 feet or under, taking into account the trim. You really don't have, it's not like it's going to scream a brick building with everything that you have across the front. I think it'll all be softened up, and in the aerials that we received, it looks like you had planned on placing more trees in front also.
That may have been,
No more trees.
well, there's, some of those designs were earlier concepts,
I'm
so.
just going on the aerials that we have received.
Yeah, I don't know if those are trees or just bushes. If they're trees, were they over towards, on the left? I
Yeah,
don't.
you have some on the left, but if you look at the front, and, if they're out of date, that's fine too.
Those might be, that was for the concept of the planning commission,
Trees
so I,
to create a canopy and feeling, how they do that. on things.
Is there anyone else in the gallery?
Hi, I'm Sharon MacKnight. I'm 62 Miller Lane, and I know Jeff, and we live in the same neighborhood. And if that building is painted brick or not, if it's a great restaurant, we will be there, that's for sure. But my question is, why was the central business district designated as a historic district in the first place? To preserve the character of the city, the town, that area there? Is that what it is?
I can't answer that.
I've done my research, but I am not thoroughly, so whoever's been on, why is that designated a historic district? I understand Midway. Why, is it to protect the character of that area? To keep the small town charm of it? Is that what it is?
it mentions here in kind of the mission of the design review board, enhance unique and variety community character, and our local businesses help create and maintain attractive nature of Fort Thomas, enhance vitality and continued heritage. It's just part
Yes,
of
but
the
you
mission
have like
statement.
retain and, try to use, the other stuff, protect your little, keep everything the same that was there, correct? That's what you're trying to do?
I don't know that it says keep sane,
Yeah, is it like replaying?
Yeah, I mean, so there's so many variants to that question. It's hard to just
So
say.
it's just somebody's perspective, how they
Well,
want
I
it to
think it's
look.
something that came out of city council and, is where it all started.
Yes, I know.
Way before me or most of us here, I suspect.
Oh, okay, yeah, it was like 20 years ago. Was it 2002?
Yes.
Okay, so, because I thought there was a reason for that, because you want to try to protect that look. And I kind of for that, but, like I'm saying, if it's a wonderful restaurant, we're going to go in no matter what. We went up there, even if it was in the home type look, we were up there. Good restaurant, we're going to go in. I like the feel of our town. I don't want to have it torn down and rebuilt, but that's just my opinion. Because obviously this is people's opinions, but this is my neighborhood. My husband grew up there the whole life. I have too. And we really like the small town charm of it. So that's just my input, and I wish you the best of luck with yours. I'm sure it'll do great. Thank you.
I can clarify one thing. This building is in a historic district, but it is designated a non-contributing building.
I know that, but it's in a district for a reason. So, it's in that. He has to follow those guidelines, or you wouldn't be in front of this board, right?
Yes, we have to be in front of this board. correct.
Yes,
It is a
that's
non-
what I thought. Okay, that's what. Yeah, you have guidelines to go. That's. Thank you.
I'm just a regular citizen, no axe to grind in this, except that
Can we get your name?
my name is Shelley Haggerty.
Thank you.
I think you know where I live.
I know.
On Westville. So my concerns are, this is a business that branding means something to. We should know about branding, we're going through it as a city. And I have a feeling that painting this building has to do with the branding of it. And frankly, if you left it brick, it would look like a converted bank. And if you look at the black addition, and you look at the rendering that's painted white, and the rendering that's brick, the addition looks odd, and like it's stuck on the side in the brick. With the white, it seems to blend in. The windows would have to be black in order to make the addition make some sense. So I think that we have a group of people who are trying to do something for the city, give us something we need. A business taking a chance on this community. And like Pat said, some of that can be a risk in this town for a business to survive like that kind of a restaurant. Is Fort Thomas willing to take a risk on a business?
Is there anyone else in the gallery? I see none. Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, so at this point, I'll entertain a motion if anybody would like to make a motion. Unless there's any further discussion that folks would like to have.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the application and allow the building to be painted.
And you have a motion to allow.
If I may, could you just, for Prosperity City, speak it a little louder?
My motion is that we accept their application and allow the building to be painted.
Okay, we have a motion to allow for the building to be painted. Is there a second?
I'd like to second that motion.
Do you have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Dave?
Nay. Motion failed, sorry. Okay. There are no more.
Yeah. We've never had the whole group here the other time, you know.
We're all volunteers. I was in Boston at the last one. I couldn't change the business trip to get here, so, I mean, sorry, I'll be at the restaurant at least weekly. Live on the avenue, so. If there are no other comments, we'll take a motion to adjourn at 7:03. Motion, yeah, we have a motion. Is there a second?